Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all well. It's Sunday and I thought I would just create for the sake of creating, just for the joy of it. So I've got no plan other than I've cut some cards, mainly because these are pieces of cards I had left over, so I've sort of made them into card blanks, and that's the only plan I've got so far. So what I've got is I've got my Pink Frog Smooth card 300 GSM, and this one is 6.5 inches square. And the only reason it's 6.5 inches square is because I thought, well, I'll use my circular gel press. I've then got a black mat, which is 6 3/4 inches square, and then a square card blank, 7 inches square. So that's the first card blank. And then what I've done is I had this piece left over, and I thought I could use this for my brayer off piece. So this is 3.5 inches by 7. And what I've done is I've created the mats to match that. So 3 3/4 by 7 1/4, then 4 by 7 1/2, then 4 1/4 by 7 3/4, and then the card blank just going up 1/4 inch bigger to create your card blank. But this piece can be any size you want because it's just going to be the brayer off piece that we can make something with. And the idea is this session is just time to chat together. And the idea is, you know, I'm just going to create because I enjoy creating. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to leave the questions in the message box. If you have any questions about my business and where I'm going, or the website, or inks, anything at all, you can ask those questions in the comments section and I'll always come back to you, no problem at all. I'm going to be using my round gel press that is 6 inches round. It does say that somewhere, doesn't it? I always miss this. Yes, 6-inch round gel press. So I'm going to be using the gel press. So let's just take that. And I know something I should have done, which I didn't. So I'll just cut another piece of card. And I'll just cut another piece of card, 6.5 inches square. 6.5. My 6.5. And the reason I've cut another piece, 6.5 by 6.5, which matches the piece that we're working on, I will explain. So we'll just remove that acetate. You can keep it in between 2 pieces of copy paper as well, which is what they recommend. But if I cut a piece of card that is the same size as the card I'm working on, I can then place my gel press onto there, and then when I pick up the print, rather than picking up the gel press and turning it over, I can just line this card up with the card underneath the gel press. Right, so I've got my gel press. It's not cleaned. It is what it is. So what I'm going to do is I've got 3 colours. I've got Salvage Patina, Wilted Violet and Cracked Pistachio. And what I'm going to do is have the piece on the side that is 3.5 inches by 7 inches, and that'll just be, let me see if we can just bring it along a bit. That will be my brayer off piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the lightest colour. And I always think that sometimes if I over prep a video, if I prep it within an inch of a life, like I would if I was demoing on TV, because you want it to be prepped so that you can fit everything in. With my YouTube channel, if I don't prep, then sometimes I can show you mistakes along the way, and I can also sort of go with the flow as well. So that works quite nicely as well. So let me just look at this now. And when I look at the gel press, let me just peel that off. I can see that it's sort of more on one side on my acetate. Now you can put this gel press on an acrylic block. If you've got an A4 acrylic block, you can place it on there as well. And what I'll do is I'll just spend ages just faffing, because I'm just like that, That's better. So let's place that on there. So you can place this on an acrylic block if you wish, just so that it doesn't move. It's entirely up to you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to brayer the colour on there, because that means I won't add too much colour. It'll give me a more sort of subtle look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brayer, and I've got one brayer that is for inks. Now that's a luxury to have one brayer for inks and one brayer for paints, but that's because I taught workshops sort of for a long time and demoed for a long time, so I have duplicates of things. So what I'm doing is I'm just brayering and rolling the brayer across the ink pad, and you can see that I'm sort of mainly leaving it in one area because I don't need to put it all the way across the brayer. There's no need. And what I'm going to do is just add that ink just to the gel press, sort of with a flicking motion, and it looks like all that ink has gone. So what we'll do is we'll just move this up a little bit. I love using the oxides because I don't have to rush. And now I can see if there's any ink by adding that just to my brayered off piece. So you might not be able to see it in camera, maybe it's a little bit delicate, but if I lift that up, you can see there's still a reasonable amount of ink on there. Yes, I'm aware that might be a little bit difficult to see. If I set it against the black, you'll see a little bit of the shading a little bit, but it's worth having that brayer off piece on the side. What I'm going to do then is go to what I call my second colour, slightly darker, which is the cracked pistachio. And then I'll pick that colour up, just brayer the colour, and just make sure I've got a reasonable amount of colour on there. You can see I'm just building that colour just up onto the brayer. Now these are not overpowering colours, and sometimes we don't want overpowering colours. Now what you don't want to do is cover all the previous colour. So you can see the brayer looks relatively clear, but if I come onto my brayered off piece, you'll see that the colour then starts to build up, which is lovely. Sort of builds up. So we can see that colour on there. And what I like about my YouTube channel is I don't have to rush. I don't have to be pressured to any time scale, so I can just take my time. I'm then going to take Wilted Violet. Now Wilted Violet is a darker colour, and it's very rich in colour, so I don't want to overpower the background with this colour. Now if you've never used Distress Oxides before, the Distress Oxides are a pigment dye fusion. Don't let that confuse you. It just means they layer beautifully. They oxidise when you layer the colours. They work beautifully with your Distress inks, but it means that they have an opaque quality. Opaque meaning that you can't see through it. Translucent, you can see through it, which is what the Distress inks are. So let's now take our Wilted Violet. Now, as soon as I touch that Wilted Violet, you can see the colour is rich. So I don't want to overpower my brayer with that Wilted Violet. So I just add a little bit of a patchy colour to that, and I flick the colour just over the gel press. I lift and flick, and it hardly looks like there's anything on there, but you can see there's plenty of colour on here. So I'll just flick this over my background and just keep layering that colour over onto this piece, and you can see how much ink is there. Now you see that I've brayered here and I've brayered here. Now if I get a wipe, watch the brayer, you can see there's still ink on there, so there's still a fair bit of ink on there, and I'm just making sure that that brayer is now nice and clean. So what I'll do is I'll just grab a little piece of kitchen roll and just brayer that onto there, just to get rid of that moisture. And then going to take the cracked pistachio. I'm just going to take a little. Now, you wouldn't hold the ink pad in your hand. You'd put it flat on a surface, but I'm doing this so that you can see. I'm not adding any to the gel press. I'm just going to add a little bit of that colour over the top onto my braid off piece. Just to add a little bit more depth of that colour. There we go. So let's just, I love that I don't have to rush. So let's just move these colours out of the way. There's nowhere out of the way. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take my little fan brush. Now you can have your paint palettes, whatever you want. You can use your paint palettes and pour your water into your paint palette to make it a little bit easier for you. I just work with what I've got on my desk so that it doesn't take up too much room. And what I'm going to use is just use an acrylic block just to add that water. And then I'm going to pick up the water just off my acrylic block, just so you can see what I'm doing. And then I'm just going to add some splatters. If there's not enough water, just add a little bit more water. And I'm just going to add little splatters of the water just to the gel press. So I'm just going to keep picking up that water and just add that to the gel press. And you can see there's no pressure to rush what I'm doing. So just pick up. So I'm just going to add some more water to the acrylic block. Pick up a little bit more, and let's move this to one side. And then I'm just going to add some of those splatters to this piece of card as well. Because even though it's very subtle, the background, and I've braided it, that ink will still react with the moisture that I'm adding. And you can see not much is happening at the moment, but we can just leave that on one side. Have a look at your gel press and then decide if you wish to have a little bit more water. So just take a little bit more water. That's better. I can see some on here now. That's it. So we'll just dry that acrylic block, because what I normally do is I pick it up and spill the water everywhere, because I'm good like that. Or I then try and pick the acrylic block up and drop it over my work. So now I've got this beautiful gel press that I don't have to rush or do anything with. Now at the moment I've got an offer. Because my website is now finally complete. Yay! It's finally complete and I love it. So to celebrate that, if you make any purchase on my website between it was between Friday and Monday, tomorrow, midnight, then you get a free £10 workshop of your choice. Once you make any purchase, I'll email you and ask you what your choice is, or you can put that £10 towards another workshop. So if you make any purchase today or tomorrow up until midnight, that applies. Now, as you can see, I'm not rushing this. And sometimes when we've got deadlines, everything's a rush, 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 rush. And that isn't what creating is all about. It's about enjoying our hobby. So I've got plenty of moisture all around here, around my desk. So now you can see, normally I would lift that up on my acrylic block and turn it over because you can see it reacting. But now you can also do it a different way. Because I've got this 6.5 by 6.5 inch piece of card that coordinates with the 6.5 inch piece of card, you try saying that at the top, I can now line that up with the card below, like so. It's just easily lined up. I can line that up with the card below. And then I can just lightly rub over. Now, this is not like the paints. You can just lightly rub over because you're doing it with inks. There's no pressure. You don't have to worry about anything. Just allow it just to do its thing on the card. You can press harder if you want, and that'll make the ink spread a little bit further. It's entirely up to you. So then we can lift our, and you can tell when it's got something because there's some resistance. So let's lift that up. And then you get a lovely background just from water and inks. Doesn't it work really well? So what I can do now, I can just see if there's anything on there. So what I can do is I can take the piece of card that's underneath, and now I can just see if there's any ink on there. If there isn't, there isn't. If there is, then great. And you've got a little bit of ink on there, not much, but you can still create a background from it. No point wasting the ink. So what I can also do is, let's just spritz the gel press with a bit of water and see if there's anything on there when we add some water. So you're sort of cleaning the gel press of any residual ink that's on there. Not much, but it still creates a background, doesn't it? Nice subtle background that you can use. So always be aware that you can clean your gel press just with a piece of card. So let's just move that out the way. No, I can't move that out of the way. I always jump ahead before I realise. Right, let's grab a piece of copier paper, which I'm hoping I've got here. So I've got a piece of copier paper here. So let's grab this, and what I'm going to do is I just want the same size circle so that I can cut it out of copier paper. So let's just go around the edges just with the gel press. Not even going to worry about where it goes. I just want it on the copier paper so that I've got the same size circle. There we go. Let's lift that up. But now I've got the same size circle to use as my aperture. So before I do anything else, let's just spritz that gel press with water again and take the same piece of the clean off piece and just clean off any of that background that's on there. Just in case there's a little bit of purple, which there is. So you've now created another background. So let's remove the gel press. Let's just give that a little bit of a wipe so that we haven't got all that moisture on there. And I'll just place that down. Excuse me. So what I'm going to do is, now I know I've got the same size circle here as I have on my background piece, my first generation print. Just gorgeous. So that's my first generation print. So what I can do now is create an aperture that I can then ink through and stamp through. But remember, I spritzed the spit it out, Tracy, gel press with water. So this card is a little bit, this paper is a little bit moist. Remember, this is only copier paper. And it just needs to sort of fit over my first generation print. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting on the inside line just all the way around. Let's cut this round. And I love doing videos where I just play and see where it takes me. It's like orange peel, keep going round. So let's move that out of the way. Let's put that somewhere, nobody knows where. Just plonk it there. So now we've got our background. This is the braided off piece. But isn't that pretty? Just even with just the subtle splats of water, just lovely, even with a braided off piece. That's what I love about creating my own backgrounds. We're all different, and this is why I'm not a big paper, decorative paper person. I like to create my own backgrounds. Now this is very moist, it's very wet, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to do what I do. So what I'm going to do then is grab the, which one now? I think I'm going to grab the Salvage Patina. Is that one? This is where I spend my life not knowing. Yes, well, or shall I grab a little bit of blue? No, well, I talk to myself a lot. So I'm going to grab the Salvage Patina. And I'm using a brush because it'll just lay the colour down a little bit more gently. But you can see I don't just sort of go like that and then expect there to be enough ink on here. Just make sure that you add a good layer of ink. So just going around, just making sure I add a good layer of ink. And what I'm going to do is, because it's just copy paper, I'm just going to hold that in place. And just go around and just add a little bit of this blue, this sort of salvage patina. And it's a bit more difficult, really. I should have cut it out of card because that would make the blending a little bit easier, but I've done it out of copy paper and it is what it is. And you can hold this in place with a piece of low tack tape if you wish. So I'm just adding a little bit of the salvage patina just around the edges, just so that we bring that colour in. And it doesn't look much initially. Let me just see if we're getting, oh yes, we're getting some. Just make sure we're getting some of that colour of the salvage patina. And we can just lift that up and you just end up with little touches of that salvage patina just in the background. You can even go in without your aperture and just add a little bit more of that salvage patina just to give it more of a bluey green tinge, just to add a little bit more of that colour. Just what a gorgeous background, and created so simply. I think there's nothing like your own backgrounds because each one is unique. There we go. Let's move this out of the way, mainly because I'll end up with so many things. Now you can see my card is a little bit curved. That will dry out. Now, top tip, you can spritz the back with water and it flattens your card out. I just let it dry naturally and it flattens out quite well. Obviously, when I'm demoing like this, I don't give it time. So there you go. Right, what I'm thinking is I'm going to use my New Beginning stamp set, TE4. I'm just so chuffed with the stamps. Now, a couple of top tips for you. Sometimes when you receive a stamp, you'll take it out of its new packaging and you'll stamp with it, and sometimes you'll get like a little hair, looks like you've got a hair on it, or you might have a little circle missing. When you first get your stamps, before you even ink them, just rub over your stamps slightly with your finger gently and just make sure there's no sort of residue of like fine polymer on your stamp. You can sometimes feel it and you get a little bit of residue. You can just rub that off, or you can just use an eraser to rub that off. Just thought I'd mention that. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my copier paper again. Hopefully we'll have some space. There we go. So I'm going to take an acrylic block. Just add my stamp to the acrylic block. Now I'm just deciding where I'm putting everything. So let me just take, where have I put that? So I've got this little wallet that I keep sort of masks in there. I really should cut them out of masking sheets, but I cut them out of copier paper. There's a little bit of low tack tape there that, you know, I might use that. Have I just got one of those? I might just have one, yeah, but we'll see how we go. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take my black ink and I'm going to use the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, which I've also got on my website now, mainly because, to make it easier, because this is the ink that I use all the time, it just means it's there on the shop at the same time as the stamps are. So what I'm going to do is ink my stamp with the Nocturne ink and just give that a really good inking. And what I mean by that is tap the ink onto the stamp, not once, just tap it a few times just to make sure it's got a good layer of ink. And if your ink pad is a little bit dry, re-ink it just so that you get that good image. Or, I mean, I tend to not re-ink, I tend to buy a new ink pad. That's just me, but you can buy re-inkers as well. So what I'm going to do is decide where I want my image. So I'm going to stamp that here. And I've got the mask that's made out of copier paper. I like to do the aperture out of copier paper so that I haven't got that ridge that will stop it stamping edge to edge. So you know that my card is wet, so I need to give that ink a little bit of time. It's a permanent ink, so it won't be affected by the moisture. But you just need to give that a little bit of time just to grab hold of that surface. Now, you've got that oxide ink on there, and because you've got that oxide ink on there, the surface is no longer as absorbent. So therefore, the ink will sit on the surface. Let's just lift that up. Can you hear? It just sticks a little bit. So that ink will just sit on the surface of there. Let's lift this up. Yes, beautiful. So the ink will just sit on there, and you'll need to block that, but we'll do that later. So this is the flower, even though you can't tell because it's stamped over that many times. I can then add my little mask over the top, just so that I can stamp another one of the florals. And again, just a nice tapping motion just to make sure you've got plenty of ink on there. And if you get into good practices, you get less frustrations when things don't work. So I've got that mask in place, and I'm then going to add the next floral just sort of next to it. And again, just allow that just to grab hold. Now, you don't want to cover all of your background up because that seems a shame, doesn't it? Because you've got a lovely background there that you want to use. So just give that time. Just to grab hold of that surface. There we go. So we lift our mask, and then we've got our two florals on there. Now it's just deciding, do I want one floral there or here? Or do I want it going? I think I'm going to have it going round. The hardest bit is putting the mask in the right place, which, trust me, I often get wrong. So just place that mask in place, and then we'll just ink that up again. And by not getting impatient, you just make sure that you add plenty of that ink. And this is why I love stamps, because they're so versatile. They don't date. They can be used now, tomorrow, next year. It's just wonderful. So again, just giving that time just to grab hold of the surface of that card. Not physically with its hands, but you know what I mean. So we'll just give that a little time. Try to remember not to lift all your fingers off the card. So then I can put this back into my wallet. And then I've got that for another time. So it does its job for a piece of copier paper. So I've then got those beautiful florals in there that I can add colour to, should I wish. Now, where are we? which drawer. Is it in the drawer? Yes, it is. So what I've got now is, I've always got this template where I've cut different circles out. I've got an old die. It must be 15 years old. I mean, a lot of you now have got all these modern, you know, layering dies and everything. I haven't. I've just got an old die. You can draw around a jam jar, anything you want. And I'm going to use one of these circles to draw around again. Right, where are we? You need to know the size of the circle. Let's just join that floral there. So this circle that I'm using is, don't forget, it only has to be approximate, it doesn't have to be exact, is 3¼ inches across. And I think it's that circle I'm going to use. Now, I just need to make sure this isn't the one with a funny ridge on it. No, it isn't. And you're like, what are you talking about, Tracy? So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to add this circle. And I'm just going to add from there all the way around. And I'm using my micron pen. Make sure I've got, that's it. So I'm just using my micron pen just to add the little circle. And what I've done there is, you can see I've joined it here and touched it there. So I haven't, so let me just, it doesn't go through anywhere else. It's just there, because what that does is it sort of extends the design as if this circle was part of the floral, and you wouldn't know that that wasn't the stamp with the circle on. So what you've done is you've taken a stamp that's just got this floral on, but you've sort of created a different composition, and it looks as if you've created your own stamp. So it's just beautiful. Just love it. Absolutely love it. So what I'm going to do now is decide on my colouring medium. Really, and if you were a professional, you should have decided before you even did the video. Right. I really want my Inktense pencils. So I'm going to grab those Inktense pencils. I'm just going to see if I've got enough colours in the 28 or 29 new colours they had. Do you know, I don't know whether I have. So I'm going to get the whole Inktense box out, like you do. Right, so what I'm going to do is decide on some colours. Now I've got my Inktense pencils, and I know a lot of you are very professional and you do your swatches, which I don't. Main reason, I've got enough stuff in my craft room. I really don't want hundreds of swatches everywhere. Yes, it is the thing you're supposed to do, but I don't, because I test the colours on the card I'm using anyway every single time. So let's just check that colour. And what colour are you? Let me just check these colours. I bet after all this I can use the new colours anyway. So I don't tend to, let's hope that we don't really want grey on there, do we? But I tend to test the colours on my card anyway, just to see if it's the colours I want. Those two colours look fine enough. If we've got anything a little bit darker, let me just check my other tin. Now, I'll give you the colours. I'll list the colours just so that you've got those. But I use my Inktense pencils when I'm knocking everything flying. I use my Inktense pencils when I want a simple method of colouring. Mainly because they're very forgiving, they're very simple to use. So let's grab my I've got something that's a little bit darker. What about you? You talk to yourself, Tracy. So let me tell you what colours I've got. So I'm looking at these, and this is the order I'm going to put them in. So let me lift those up for you. Let's just wipe a little bit of this moisture out of the way. Light, medium, dark. I've not even looked at the colours and what they are. So let's give you those details. So these two colours are from the new 28 colours they had, and that is red violet, which you wouldn't think it was, thistle and sugar plum. So I might not have the red violet. Let me get another one. What's this one? And this is why you test your colours. That's better. So now this one, the actual thistle is from the new colours. So we've got light, which is amethyst 0735, amethyst Inktense pencil, medium thistle 0720, and sugar plum 0715. And then those are the colours that I'm going to use. So am I going to, which one? Yes, the middle one. So I'm going to use my darkest colour first. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to press too hard. So I'm using my darkest colour for me, which is sugar plum 0715. Yes, I'd say that's darker. So I'm going to use the sugar plum. And I'm just going to add that sugar plum just to the middle floral. So just at the edges, I'm just adding that sugar plum. And really, we've got a card here with no layers on. So if you wanted it for postage, it wouldn't be a problem if you wanted to keep it like this. So just adding the sugar plum, just in a circular motion, but I'm not pressing on too hard because I've got moisture in the card and I don't want to break down those fibres too much and get like a pith from the card, in the card breaking down. So there's the darkest colour, the medium colour, which is thistle 0720. I'm then going to add just next to it. So I'm just adding that next to it. And even though if you've got your swatches, I would still suggest that you test the colour on your card, because every card reacts differently to the colours and the medium that you're using. So I would recommend that you test that anyway. So just adding that second colour. And then I'm going to take the lightest colour, which in my case is the amethyst 07. Oh, good grief, it makes my eyes go funny. 0735. And then I'm just going to add that colour. And come into your other colours as you colour with it. Now, the Inktense you can use on fabric. They're permanent once ironed. So you could use these on fabric. And they react beautifully with water, particularly if you've got the correct card. The only thing is you get to the stage, you think, did I do that? Did I colour that petal? Did I do? Right, no, I didn't do that one, did I? Now, you can see a little bit of dimension there, but when you add water, it all comes to life. So what I'm going to do is grab a little... Where's the little A5 acrylic block gone? How can one person lose something so quickly? I had a little A5 acrylic block, so if you're unsure, just grab another one. So I'm going to add my water to my acrylic block, and I'm just going to pick up that water. Don't want it soaking wet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in to the petals. So start with the moisture here and push the colour down, because then you push the darkest colour down into that crevice, and then you can bring it out again. Okay, take a little bit more water, not much, go down into that colour and push the darkest colour to the base of that petal, and then just drag that out. So I can use the same water again, and you get more vibrancy. So let's just push that down. And because you've got those background layers as well, it's quite nice against the purpley tones. And with the Inktense, it's so simple. It really is. It's just lovely. Nice, simple way of colouring. And it pops. So what I'm going to look for now is a little bit of, let me just, what colour are you? I've got an iris blue here. Iris blue 0900. And what I'm going to do now, be aware, these are not woodless pencils. So if you touch this with water, only a tiny bit, because you don't want that moisture going up here and ruining your pencil. So I'm picking the pigment up with a touch of blue, and I'm just going to add a little bit of the blue just to the project, just a little bit of that blue. And I've hardly got any water on mine. I'm going to pick up a little bit more because there's hardly any water on there. Just to pick up a little touch of that iris blue. Just to give it a little tinge of that iris blue. Just to give, and I can see that it's taking a little bit longer for me to pick it up because I haven't got much moisture on there. Let's just blend that out. And the blue just gives it a little bit of dimension. It's just beautiful. Just love this. And see, this is what I like about my YouTube channel. I'm not concentrating on time, because that isn't what it's about. It's about getting the most out of our products, losing an hour and just switching off. Let me just clean that now. Let's just blot that up. Now, this is still wet, so very difficult to add any touches of white apart from the centre. So if I just grab a little piece of black card. And just check that. There you go, that's working on there. And then I can just add a little bit of the white just to the centre of the floral. And it really does make a difference when you just add those touches of white. It just makes everything pop. But you just need to, if you add these little touches, it brings things to life. Now, I don't want to colour every floral because I just want one of them to sort of stand out a little bit more. So I'm just adding the touches of white. But the floral looks wonderful with the background underneath. It really does. So lovely. And that just sort of brings the floral to life. It really does. And if you don't want to do any sort of scratchy lines, you can also just add little dots to your floral, and that also brings it to life as well. Just makes everything, you don't need many, it just makes it pop a little bit more. Just to add that there. There we go. Let me just show you this. Now we want to sort of make this pop a little bit more. So I'm going to take the same water brush. Let's just make sure that that's clean. And it seems pretty cleanish. So we'll then use the Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going to add that to my non-stick craft sheet. No, that's to an acrylic block, not a non-stick craft sheet, Tracy. And what I'm going to do is pick up some of this ink. Let's just add a little bit more ink. So I'm going to take the Hickory Smoke, just take a little bit of that water off, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of Hickory Smoke just around the floral, just around this middle floral. And it's about sort of building up the layer of ink. Now it doesn't happen over 5 minutes. Let's just take that and just add that to my non-stick craft sheet, just so I've got a little bit more darkness of colour. So I'm just picking up a little bit of the Hickory Smoke, and I've hardly got any moisture on my brush. You can hear it sort of dragging a little bit, so I'm not sort of adding too much. Just building that up. So I'm adding a darker layer now, just closer to the petals. Just to build it up, to give a little bit of depth. So what I'm going to do then, just to get it a little bit more, where are you? Sometimes I leave things on the desk, sometimes I'm in a total mess. Did I? And it's because I'm using the smallest Inktense pencil for the grey, because there's no way I'm getting rid of it, because it's still got all that in there still. And I have got a pencil extender as well. So I'm going to add some of this grey Inktense pencil, which is going to be a little bit darker than the Distress Oxide. So just scribbling round that floral, just to give a little bit more darkness. I love doing these bits. Let's have a little bit more water. And then we'll just drag this out, because it'll be a little bit darker with it being the Inktense pencil. Just to blend that out just a little bit darker. Just don't make it too wet, because we've worked it quite a lot now. But you can see it starts to give it a little bit more depth. And what you should do, let's go and grab my heat tool. mainly because we've got a lot of moisture on there. You just sort of, you don't want to create holes in your card. So let's give that a little bit of a dry. Now if we dry it a little bit, it just means I might be able to get away with another layer of that grey. Let's just heat it this way, just so it straightens out. So it just might give me that option just to add a little bit more grey. So what I'm going to do this time is pick up the moisture, pick up a little bit on my pencil and go in even darker with that pencil, and then just drag that out. And it has as well, it's allowed me just to add another little darker layer, just to make it a little bit darker. Let's take a little bit more moisture and just blend that out a little bit. And what I'm doing is I'm blending out with a little bit of the oxide ink, just so that it blends out nicely. And it just means that it just stands out a little bit more. What I'm going to do is pick a little bit more of that grey up, just so it blends out a little bit more. There we go. Just blends out and just stands out a little bit more. So yes, it takes a little bit just to get that blend, but it's so worth it. I think it is. Just makes it stand out and pop. I just love that. So where's mine? Going to take the same stamp set, grab that A7 acrylic block, and we're going to use the sentiment, The Beauty of Flowers. But you've still got dimension and you've not added any dimension, so it works quite nicely. I'm then going to use the VersaFine Clair Morning Mist, which I've also got on my shop as well. But I love the VersaFine Clair for pushing things into the background, the Morning Mist. So I'm going to use my Morning Mist. And then I'm just going to add this as like a background stamp. And the grey just works beautifully without it being too overpowering. It's just lovely. And I think we should do this more often on a Sunday. Yes, you might be out, you know, you might be having Sunday dinner, or you might be with family, but then this is there for you, you know, if you get time in the week. It's lovely just to play with your stamps. This could quite easily be a journal spread. Absolutely no problem at all. You could create this in your journal. You could do two sides, sort of with similar effect and feel, and you've got a journal spread. It doesn't have to be a card. And you could quite easily not put this on a card and stick this into a journal page, just quite easily. Add a few splatters around the edge of the journal page and it all coordinates beautifully. So I've got that Beauty of Flowers just stamped around that. I think that's stunning. I just think that is beautiful from a beautiful floral. Florals never date. I don't care what anybody says. They never date. I never tire of them because I can use them all together. I just adore them. Right, so let's take this little bit of card that we tested on and let's grab my Versamark ink. Want some white embossing powder. I think I will use a little bit of an anti-static bag because I have sort of messed with this card a little bit. And I don't like it when card looks too messy with splatters of white embossing everywhere, because although it can be an effect, it can also look quite untidy. There we go. Let's just tip off the excess of that powder. And then I'm going to use that Versamark ink, which is a sticky ink pad, which allows my embossing powder to stick to the sentiment. Let's just lift that up. Now, just try to remember not to... I've got no bits of copier paper here. Oh, this'll do, I only need a bit. Try not to squish that sentiment too much. Can't pick the card up. I'm doing really well. So let's... And that embossing now will just stick to the sentiment and not sticky paw prints all the way around the edge. So we'll just give that a heat. We'll heat the heat tool up first because there's no point going in there and then nothing happens. So we'll just give that a heat. I've got little bits of glue dots there as well. Right. So we'll just heat that up. And I do love the white embossing on the black. Sometimes it takes me ages to see that it's actually going. There you go. We got you all? Yes, we have. So we'll then get my larger scissors. One advantage of having a small room, I can just reach for everything. Just make that sentiment a little bit smaller. There we go. And then what I'm also going to do is just give that a little bit of a dust, a polish. I know it's a rude word, that polish word, but we just don't want the powder in the background. We want that black card to be black card and not grey. So now I've got the beauty of flowers, and you can have it wherever you wish, but I quite like it sort of, do I like it there? No, I like it sort of in the circle, I think, yes. Or do I like it? Oh dear, Tracy, just stick to where you're going to say you're going to do it. So it's your card. Place it wherever you wish. It's entirely up to you. I think I like it there. Just so. Or do I like it there? Or do I like it there? Yes, you can take forever in deciding your project. I think it's going to go there because I'm just terrible. So let's grab our bit of adhesive. Let's hope my adhesive works. There we go. Just add this here. I love the grey sentiment in the background. I just think that is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I'm just give that a couple of seconds just to grab hold, because I do this every time. I try and put the edge of the shading on while it all moves, so that, let's see if there's enough moisture in there. Let's take off the excess and just blend that out. There we go. Oh, just absolutely adore that. So I'm going to add some white splatters. So let's just place that across the sentiment like so that we don't cover that sentiment up. Now, if your Posca pen, you know, you're shaking and trying to splatter and nothing's happening, make sure you give it a shake and you make sure that that paint is flowing. I mean, my Posca pens are so well used, and it's a Posca paint pen. I'm just going to give that, turn your card around so that you hit different areas. And just so that you hit the floral as well. That's lovely. So now I can just remove that sort of protection from the sentiment. I just think that is absolutely gorgeous. I just love it. I love creating. So you can add this to a black mat and then add it to your journal. No problem at all, because then you can look back on it and you can create notelets and take inspiration doing smaller versions as well. So we'll just add. The only thing I find with my 6.5 inch square card blank is I can hardly hold them. My hands aren't big enough. There we go. Let's add that to a black mat, which is really going to make that pop. Oh, I just love that. I could do that over and over and over. No problem at all. I could do that over and over. I just love it. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to add that to a 7 inch card blank. Just add that there. Sort of get one side right before I place the other down. And I can move that for a few seconds. Oh, I just love it. Absolutely love that. And then with my glue gun, oh, try not to move the camera, Tracy, she says. With my glue gun, I created these little glue drops, which you can also add to the project. I just put them on my non-stick craft sheet and pulled them off the non-stick craft sheet. So it's entirely up to you if you want to do your little glue dots, or you can use your gems. It's entirely up to you, or you don't have to put anything on there if you don't wish. You can even add like sort of a dewdrop to your floral as well. So I'm just going to, don't want the more domed one. Yeah, you're a bit squashed, you are. So I'm going to add these little dewdrops. Now, these are just my own made ones from Ultra Clear glue sticks and a hot glue gun. Just as an embellishment. You don't have to add any 3D elements if you don't wish. That's entirely up to you. So you can then see I've just got those on there as well. I just adore that. Right, well, we haven't finished. You know, it's Sunday, no rush. We've got this piece here, haven't we? That we created as the brayer off piece. So why don't we use it? So let's place this back. I've now got so much stuff on my desk. Let's just place this back. which I never get in the right place. Let's just place that back so we don't get in too much of a mess. And then on this one, I'm going to use my clematis. So let's take the clematis. Don't sort of stretch your stamps, sort of roll them off. Don't stretch your stamps off their packaging. Which way do I want it now? That one isn't even stuck on, Tracy. Obviously I'm not sticking it on. Right, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink the clematis with my black ink. There we go. And then I'm going to add the clematis there. There we go. You could have had the card, you know, horizontal rather than vertical, or whichever way you wanted it to, to have it. You can have it this way or going top to bottom, whichever you prefer. Let's just give that time just to absorb onto there. Now, as I said in the first card, you can blot the ink if you think you're going to place your fingers over the top and smudge the ink. You can just take your copier paper, she says. No copier paper. Let's just use this. You can take your copier paper and just give that a blot. It's relatively dry, so that's not a problem. I'm then going to take my little copier paper masks. I always cut some copier paper masks. Again, masking sheets are far easier, but I haven't bought any, so I use copier paper. There we go. I'm then going to ink, make sure I get the right ink, because I've got grey ink out here as well. Just take that ink again. And you can see exactly with the first card, I'm making sure that I tap that ink on there. And then I'm going to add a little bit further down here, like so. And because I've used that paper mask, it's not going to affect the stamping. It's not going to have a ridge because it's just a paper mask. Just lift our stamp up. And I can keep that mask now, place that back into my little wallet. Like so. And then I've got that for future. And then I'm going to take the same circle I did before, which was 3 1/4 inches, wasn't it? Right, let's add. I don't want it to be bang in the middle like that. And then I'm going to take my micron pen that I've now covered up. I need to take my micron pen and add the circle through the petals. Just so that you've got the circle now. So now I've created another design with the clematis that again makes the clematis look totally different. So I just love that. So what we can do then is we can take our Inktense pencils again that we used before with the dark, medium and light, and we can colour our clematis. Just like we did before, which is, hang on a minute. There we go. Yeah, I couldn't see my, that is that, yeah. I'm trying to judge which area I'm supposed to be colouring. So just adding the darker colour first. So you are coming down here. And then add the medium colour. Didn't add the dark colour to this because I was concentrating so much. Medium, and then the light colour. So using the same colours that you've used on the other one. And then we're going to add our water, which my pen's had that many colours on now. I can't remember what's on there. Just grey, so that's fine. So we'll just, and it just comes to life. It just works beautifully. The colours begin to pop. And I don't add too much water so that I don't overpower everything. And again, just like the other one, we will add some touches of the blue. Let's just add a little bit more water. And it just comes to life when you add a little bit of that colour. So I'm going to colour the other one as well. I don't like to go too far ahead and colour too many of the florals too quickly. I like to just sort of do one at a time. That's just me all over. Second colour. And I do find the Inktense pencils so easy to use. They're just very forgiving. And then we'll use that light colour. Let's put a little bit more there. A little bit of light colour there. And then we'll use our water. I always find it easier to turn the card rather than anything else. There we go. And it just pops, it just comes to life. Obviously we've got to add our white areas yet, but we'll do that shortly. And you can tell the minute you touch the Inktense pencils. So what I'm going to do is grab the little blue. It was Iris something, wasn't it? Iris Blue 0900. Just pick up a little bit of that blue, just to add a little bit of the blue. Just think it's nice adding that little touch of blue. It just sort of brings it a little bit more interest by giving that little touch of blue. Just gives it a little bit more interest. There we go. Let's clean them. We'll add our white afterwards. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the selvage patina. So we'll take our selvage patina, which is a very pale colour. Make sure we haven't got purple on there. And this time I'm going to add the selvage patina around the florals with a little bit more depth. So I'm just going to add that with a little bit more depth around that colour. Just makes it look a little bit different to the previous one. But again, it's not going to happen in 5 minutes. You need to build that depth. You could also go in with the Distress pencils. Oh, what have I got here? Here you go. So this is, I've also set 6. I've got these on the website as well. So I've got this, pick it up, Tracy, this one here, just to give it a bit more vibrancy. I've got the broken china. So what I can do now, because I've got the Distress pencil, is I can go in and add the Distress pencil just around, just add this around the floral like you would with the Inktense pencil, but I'm using the Distress colours. So let's just add this around. So just go around. Now if I want to, I can, because these are woodless, I can now pick this up, make sure my brush is coated in that, and now I can activate what was on there initially and just blend it out. Oh yes, that works rather nicely. Just blend that out, make it a little bit darker there, and blend out. Blend it out to nothing. Oh yes. So I can take my pencil in and just add it a bit darker and then reactivate with the water. Oh, I just love it. But it does help if you've got water under the brush as well. Just blend that out. Oh, I'm going to be hooked on this now. That's it. Oh, it looks lovely. It's definitely richer sort of pigment. And I'm losing myself now. Can you tell? I'm definitely losing myself. And go back in, make it darker. Like so. And then just blend that out. Do exactly the same with the small areas. And here, the minute you add a little bit, it does help if you've got water on, because then you're actually picking something up. A little bit more darkness there, you can see it just stands out. And the good thing about this is, if you wanted to remove some, you can do that as well, because the minute you add some water to it, you can just blend it out further. I love it. Absolutely adore it. So I can go in, I can go even darker, and then just blend it out. Take your water and blend that out. So you can go even darker, just around the edges, like so. Take off the excess and then just blend that out. So even darker. Take off the excess and then just blend that out. Oh yes, that's fun, that is. So just blend that even darker and even darker here. Take off the excess and just blend that out. That works rather nicely. Like that. Right, let's clean up our mess. You can see what we've got so far. So let's give it a dry so we can add some of our touches of white. Let's just give that a dry. I'll be able to add my white touches again, but I'm just thinking I might just add another circle. You always know when I'm enjoying myself because I just lose myself. So, smaller circle. So I've got a smaller circle now. Don't want even another one. No, I just like it with the two. So a smaller circle, which is about 1 3/4 inches across. And then, we're going to grab set number 6 again. So grab set number 6. Again, I've got these on the shop. What is this? Dusty Concord. Let's have you. Tracy's enjoying herself. Right, let's just rinse that blue off. Now I can go in with my Dusty Concord. Just take this. It's lovely because it's just colouring. So then I can take some of the neat colour and then just blend this out. It blends out beautifully. Then add more depth of colour. And a little bit more on this one. Just blends out wonderfully. Well, as long as you've got the right card. Card is key. Let's just add a little bit more. Oh, yes, yes, yes. And then let's just give that a ring. Oh, let's just... Now, where's my splatter brush? So if I take my splatter brush, I can then add more splatters. because it's distress, and that's what we love about distress, that it reacts and creates a beautiful background. So I'm just using my splatter brush just to give me some delicate splatters. Give that time to react, but let me lift it up so you can see it's starting to react here. Just love that. Now, the longer you leave that, the more it will react. I will dry it in a few seconds because I want to add the white areas. But it just looks beautiful. And this is what I like about stamps. The more you use them, the more inspired you get, because then you realise, oh, I could do this, oh, I could do that. And in March, I'll be bringing out some other little bits, some other stamps, and maybe a couple of little tiny stencils that can expand these stamps. And it's just, I get so excited because I can just do whatever I want now. So I can just give that a dry. So just giving it a dry, just so that I can add some white touches. Let's dry the reverse of that to bend the card back a bit. Oh, just love that. See, now I want to do a background just with the distress crayons, pencils, coloured, whatever. White touches. So I'm going to add a couple of white touches just to this. Just give it touches of white. Now it's dry, it's fine. Just give that touches of white. Just give that a little bit here. Then we're going to add our splatters now. I bet this Posca, let me just see if this newer Posca pen will give me some bigger splatters. Ah, but not yet. Ha, just remembered. So on the clematis, we've got our clematis word, we've got climate, timeless, with warmest wishes. So we can use any of these. So I think I'll use the clematis text like we did before. I didn't put this sentiment back on the other stamp. I told you you can easily lose stamps if you don't put them back. Let's just place those back. Let's take the clematis. And now this time I need to make sure I grab the grey ink. I'm going to grab my Morning Mist ink. And I'm going to add some stamping in grey, and nobody would know that this isn't a whole stamp rather than the clematis on its own. Nobody would know, and that's the joy of stamps. You can make them look different each time, and that's what I love so much about them. They're so versatile. There we go. So let's try this Posca pen. Definitely full of paint, this one is. That's better, I can feel it. Lovely, lovely. I'll just sling it on the floor then. So let's just pick that up. And then I want the black card again. And I put my embossing powder away because I'm good like that. So let's just add the anti-static bag. take our clematis wording. Let's just give that a bit of a wipe. And we use our Versamark ink. Onto the black card. Again, you don't really need to stamp too, press too hard. There we go. Did I keep that little tiny bit of card? I did. Can you tell I'm enjoying myself? So let's add the clematis, flick off the excess. And then we'll just heat this. Brilliant way to spend a Sunday. Let's give that a dry now. Not a dry, let's heat that so that we melt the embossing powder. If I lift it up, it's not trying to heat the non-stick craft sheet as well. There we go. And once you've melted the embossing powder, just move your heat tool away. Cut that wording up. Again, I just need to give the card a little bit of a dusting. This is probably a bit wet, but that's better. Cutting as if, a little bit straighter would help. So I'm going to add the clematis here because I don't want to add it down. Can't pick it up. Don't want to add it down here because it's just disjointed. I want to keep it within the composition. Add that. Like so. That's lovely. We'll add this to our mat and layers as well. Now you can add a little bird if you want. It's entirely up to you. I just need that Inktense pencil just to add the shading as well. So let's add a little bit of shading. Can't remember whether, there we go. Let's add a little bit of shading. Now I would like a little bit, if I can do it, a little bit of splatters. Just, there we go, on the word. There we go, just on this one, just to, because I just fancy it. Just so you can see this, and it's completely flat. Completely flat. So if we add that now, so this was 3.5 by 7, and we're going up 1/4 of an inches. 1/4 of an inch. I can't speak. So let's add this to our black mat. And the minute you mat and layer it, it starts to look more professional. So let's add that. Now don't forget, this was the brayer off piece. So let's just add that. Then we'll add it to a white mat that is 1/4 of an inch bigger. I have to keep shaking my glue. Then add that to the white. I just like to lift it up because I just find it easier just to make sure that that is just on there how I want it. So then another black mat, again, 1/4 of an inch bigger. And then I'm going to add that then to my card blank, which is again 1/4 inch bigger. And I cut that card blank from a piece of A3 card. So we'll just add that to that card. And once you mat and layer them, it does make a difference. It really does add to the project. Let me just add one more thing to that. So then let's just put the clematis back. Again, try not to stretch them from your acrylic block. Peel them away. Roll them away. Which way are you now? Let's try and put that on there. I've put them back. The acetate back, and then I'm just going to grab my heart, branched heart. And I just want to stamp the chevron because I'm obsessed and they work beautiful as an embellishment. So I need a scrap of white card. Let's just see. Will they fit on that? No. Let's grab a bigger piece of white card then. Let's put that away. I'm going to stamp this in the black. It's only one chevron really that I think I want anyway. But I always do two just in case. And you can see that that is from the Branched Heart TE6. Let me just stamp those. That's it. And then we can cut our chevrons out. Now the chevrons are meant to be distressed. So I sort of cut in and out where the distressed bits are because I like that. Plus it makes them a little bit different. Go. That's it. Can't pick my card up. And then I'm going to add the chevron just here at the top, just to balance this out as well. So let's just grab that. If you want, you don't have to, I'm going to have to do it now because you don't have to have the points if you don't want. So if you want, you can just, let's do it over the top of the card because I'm good like that. So you can cut them points off and then you can have it just like a tab, like I would the index clips. So add this to there, and that's why I try and make the stamps as versatile as I can, that you can do more than one trip pony things with them. Right, so let's then grab the little Inktense pencil and just add that to the points. Then there should be enough moisture on there. Let me just blend that out. There we go. Just so you can see the little chevron. Just gorgeous. Move these out of the way. Bring in our, that's it. Bring in our first card. Just adore these. And I hope you have as much fun as me creating with them. And this is our second card from the waste left over. So I hope you've enjoyed those. I really do. I think I'll just add a little bit of white here and just here. So just, there we go. So I hope you've enjoyed them as much as I have. And all that's left for me to say is love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.